Well, it's really basically turned everything upside down.
So, hi, Agnes.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Could you please introduce yourself real quick?
So I'm Agnes Dunn. I'm a freshman at the University of Michigan. Currently, I'm an undecided major, and I'm part of the residential college there.
My name is Macy, and I am a high school senior, and I also was a cashier at Boston Market.
So I'm Julie Warham, and I'm a first grade teacher here in Northville Public Schools. I've been a teacher for 28 years, but this is my very first year ever being a distance learning teacher.
So, I'm going to ask you a few questions about the quarantine and social distancing. First of all, how has the quarantine affected your everyday life?
So I went from living on campus in a dorm at the beginning for the school year to living at home with my parents. I don't live very far from campus, but it was definitely a big transition for me. I hadn't really expected to go home so soon. And so that's really the biggest change in my daily life is I'm changed where I live pretty abruptly. That's the biggest change, and obviously classes going online as well.
Well, for starters, I'm not at school anymore, so all of my schooling is online. I also did lose my job due to quarantine, and my restaurant closed down completely, and I was laid off.
Okay.
Well, it's really basically turned everything upside down. I mean, work-wise, that's been one of the biggest changes because as a first grade teacher, although my students use iPads and supplementary resources online, my traditional classroom has had to be completely turned into an online classroom. And that took a lot of learning on my part. So hours upon hours of PD when this first started back March 13th, we were shut down. So the week following was just a huge learning curve for myself to learn how Google Classroom, and I tried Google Hangouts, and I ended up using Zoom. And so there was a lot of trial and error going on, a lot of learning. And finally, I feel like I'm in a spot where I have some control over it. But yeah, that has really thrown us all, I think, as teachers for a loop. Those of us who are used to being in a traditional classroom and then putting all of that online.
Yeah.
And I really feel like I've become even as much a teacher of the parents because first grade families aren't used to these platforms either. And so I'm doing a lot of parent education along with trying to teach my first graders.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like you also taught yourself a lot in this process and
Oh, I have learned so much. And that's really, it's frustrating, but it's also very exciting. It's very exciting. And I can even see a lot of the things I've learned about distance learning. I could see using them in the future once we do get back to traditional
right.
classrooms.
Second question would be what have you been doing with your free time since you've been primarily stuck at home?
So I live kind of out in the country a little bit, and my parents have chickens and bees and kind of a big garden. So I've been doing a lot of work outside. Today I was out planting doing some gardening with my mom and planting. I also like to cook a lot, so I've been doing a lot of cooking and baking. I live with my parents and my older brother, and so I've been hanging out with him a little bit more than I probably would have before.
Nice.
Honestly, I've been playing a lot more guitar nowadays, which I kind of had shied away from at first because I was having art block and everything. But now I'm getting back into it and writing more music.
That's great.
Well, I do love to exercise, and so I continue to run, and very careful about that, though. I definitely, this oncoming person, I'm running off to the side and maintaining that 6 feet apart. But I love to run, and I also do some Pilates at home. my daughter's home and my husband's working from home, and so we play board games, puzzles. We watch Netflix.
Yeah.
I read. I've almost finished 2 novels so far.
The big question here is how have you been managing online learning, especially since you're a student?
So it's definitely been a big transition. I mean, a lot of, as I think any college student will tell you, a really good college class is based in a lot of hands-on experience, is based in small group discussions and working as a team. And I live in a residential community that's focused on language learning with other students in my classes. So all of the students in my Spanish program I live with in the same dorm. So there's a lot of offhand interaction in Spanish. We have Spanish lunch tables and time to interact with our teachers, and a lot of that has changed a lot. I also had a very hands-on healthcare theater class in which I was training to be a standardized patient. But my teachers and my professors have really been the highlight of this experience and going online. They've worked tirelessly to make this a positive experience for us and to transfer the courses they've been teaching for years to a new format, including in my healthcare theater class, having opportunities to be a standardized patient via video conferencing, which is actually good training for the future of possibly telemedicine and that.
Definitely.
I have office hours 3 times a week to practice my Spanish with my professors. So they've put in a lot of work, and even when other things, it seems like the university doesn't know what's going on or whatever, the professors have been there for their students.
Yeah, I've been speaking with a lot of other people about how their language learning has been transitioned online, because some people cannot be learning a language fully online like that. It's just not possible, especially since you're not interacting with people who fully speak the language sometimes, or people who aren't. I mean, just being physically there definitely can help.
There's a lot of nuances in language, and as a second language, it's any audio quality, not being able to see people's lips move, even not being able to see facial expressions as much. Those things help a lot of contextualization in a second language. And I'm sure, as you know, learning sign language is really important. The really small nuances of someone's face or their motions in a physical sense, and how far things are away from different parts of their body is really hard to convey often over video call.
Yeah. I definitely agree, yeah.
Well, I haven't been managing my online learning. It's been a real struggle for me. I can't focus as well during online learning just because I don't have a desk. I'm mainly on my bed. I have to deal with a bunch of other distractions happening, whether it be parents or a dog even. So online learning's been tough, definitely.
It can be very frustrating when the technology doesn't work the way I want it to, or when I make mistakes, but I have to say that is outweighed by how exciting it is. Like, I have a Google Classroom now. I never knew how to do that, and I've been able to integrate a lot of the things I do in the traditional classroom and just put them into this virtual classroom. One of the things that we are really focused on too is the social emotional learning of the children, and making sure that they're managing this crisis as well, and that their feelings are intact. And so one of the things that I used to do in my traditional classroom is we had a leader and me binder, and we had a victory section where students would reflect on all their learning for the week, choose one item and put it in the binder. Well, we don't have that binder anymore, but we do have a folder in our Google Classroom, and each week students do the same thing. They reflect on all their learning and they choose one, they send it to me, and I upload it into our victories folder in our virtual classroom. In fact, just today, one of my writing assignments was to have students write a letter to a senior citizen in a local senior care facility. And my student sent me a picture not only of him holding up his letter that he wrote, but also a picture of him putting it in the mailbox. And so it really, the mom wrote a really nice message about how it's nice that in a scary time where you feel like you don't have a lot of control, and 6-year-olds often feel that way, but I think right now we all feel that way, at least by doing something to help others, you're taking a little bit of that control back. So those moments have been super exciting. But also, having a Zoom meeting with 26 first graders has also been a huge, exciting, and amazing new adventure for us.
Oh, I bet. What has been your biggest concern during this time?
So my father is a ER doctor in the city of Detroit and also does a lot of public health work for the city as well. He's the medical director for the public safety and for the police and the fire department, and works closely with the city. And so there's been a lot of concerns that he's had to handle. He hasn't been in as much direct exposure, but he still has to go to work physically and be physically present in a lot of things, which is stressful. But I think it's empowering to know that there are people working really hard to understand what's going on and to make it a better situation. I also have my aunt's a nurse who works in a hospital at Beaumont in Royal Oak. She's directly treating COVID patients, and seeing her having to isolate from her family and live in her trailer has been really difficult, and it's something she struggles with a lot, and that her family is really struggling with. So having family in the healthcare field definitely is hard, and I know a lot of friends and family have lost their jobs or been negatively impacted by that too, in an already often unstable job market for people. My brother lost his job offer after college, but is able to find different ones. But it's disrupted everyone's life in a multitude of different.
I've heard a lot of people our age have been losing internships during the summer. Or other, again, job opportunities. A lot of people our age work just strictly retail or just food, and they can't be doing that. So I think this is all a really challenging time for everyone. And we're concerned about our loved ones, and that's what it is.
My biggest concern during this time is definitely my job. I don't think I'm going to be getting my job back, because by the time quarantine's over and I would go back to work, I think I may have moved away by then.
Right.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy one, because my parents are both in their late 80s. They are living in their own condo, so I'm thankful they're able to do that and not be in a nursing home, where I know they would be much more isolated than they are right now. But it worries me. We bring over meals and so forth. My dad still insists on going to the grocery store himself, but he does wear his mask and so forth. So it just worries me, because of course they are both in one of those groups that could be highly affected by the coronavirus, much more. They could succumb to it much easier. So that worries me.
Last question. What will you be taking away from this experience overall? It can be positive, negative, up to you.
I generally tend to be an optimist in almost all parts of my life, and I've had moments of pessimism and doubt, as I think we all have throughout this whole situation, especially seeing leaders in our countries and our communities and people in our state seeming to have a disrespect for each other and for the health of the community or the health of the state over personal gain, which is always troubling to see, whether it's price gouging or still disobeying social distancing guidelines. But most of all, I've seen people who I might not expect step up and take this really seriously. People who I normally don't take things seriously have a lot of respect and take this seriously. And I think humans are meant to adapt, and we will adapt, and we will find new ways to do things, and things will change slowly. I hope to personally become more involved in responding to this crisis. Over the next couple months, I'm taking an EMT course online to study to become an EMT, and I hope to work, whether or not it's in this crisis or in the future, to being a medical worker is something I've always wanted to do. I want to go to med school after college, and then seeing this, some people might be scared away from going into medicine, but for me, it's all the more reason to, I guess. So that's another takeaway.
That one, I can't do online school, so I'm gonna make sure all of my college classes are face-to-face, because I feel like I get the most enrichment out of that, like, setup, I guess you could say. And that sometimes you should not coop yourself up at home, even if you're an introvert who's shy.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, professionally, I'm going to take so much, as I've already, talked about. The online learning that we've been doing, I can see even continuing that in the future. I could do sort of a flipped classroom where I have students, listen to a video at home, and then we do the learning and the question and answering at school. It would maximize our time in the traditional classroom that way. But also, I think, just as importantly, I think people are much kinder during this time. I think this coronavirus, as terrible as it is, has made us all pause for a minute and just appreciate how much we love to be with people. I get a little teary-eyed, appreciate how important our loved ones are. And when that's taken away from us, I hope that it makes us realize going forward that we need to be kinder to each other, that we need to reach out and help each other, not just during these times of crisis, but at all times.
Right. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you too.
Okay, hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, thank you so much for answering a few of my questions and helping out with this short film.
Oh, you're very welcome, Leah.